started. If you can go ahead and take your seats. Thank you for your patience. We have a little bit of change in the order of operations for tonight. The county executive is stuck in traffic and he'll be on his way. But thank you all for your patience again. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to the District 1 Budget Town Hall. My name is Renee Alfonso and I serve as the Director of Communications for County Executive Pittman. I'm also a District 1 resident, and I've had the pleasure of moderating this very town hall for the last 3 years. I will be your moderator for this evening. This town hall is part of our annual Budget Town Hall series and is your opportunity to let county leaders know what you and your communities think should be funded in the county's fiscal year 26 budget. This evening, we will hear opening remarks from your District 1 County Council member, Pete Smith, then County Executive Pittman, if he's here, and your friendly neighborhood budget officer, Chris Trumbauer, will share a presentation about the county's investments and the outlook for fiscal year 26 budget. After the presentation, we'll open the floor for public testimony and you will get a chance to share your thoughts. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce if there's any elected officials in attendance tonight. So it looks like we have Alderwoman Rhonda Pendles-Charles here. If you just stand up or wave, thank you for being here tonight. Do we have any other elected officials or elected official representatives? I don't see any others on the list. Seeing none. I would also like to introduce our department directors who are here this evening. Ms. Karen Henry from the Department of Public Works. She's over there to my right. Jessica Lays, our Director of Recreation and Parks. Mark Wiedemeyer, the Director of Inspections and Permits. And then Brandy is also here as a representative from our Department of Aging. All right, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce Councilmember Pete Smith.
That's definitely working. I just want to say I'm happy over the last 6 years, this is probably going into the 7th year, that the county executive has hosted these meetings because they are important. We have one bite at the apple every single year when it comes to the budget. And so the earlier we are aware of issues or problems that exist within certainly District 1, the sooner I can start advocating for those issues. And so it's so important to hear all of you and what your concerns are, because I really want to represent your concerns and your wishes and take that back to the budgetary process so we can make things happen. We know that the county government is in good hands with my trusty friend here, Chris Trumbauer, who's been an excellent budget officer. But more importantly, we have been very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say conservative when it comes to our budgetary execution and outlook, so that we don't put ourselves in a position where we can't afford things. And so because we have taken that approach to this budget, it really has put us in a situation where we can at least maintain the status quo, if not more, going forward. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what each of you and every one of you have for this. We have a bunch of super active individuals, people like Lisa, who just stood up back there in the back, and she's ducking now. She has been an ardent supporter of North County High School, and it's great to see her here advocating as well, at least and just showing up. You all showed up, and it matters, and I'm so grateful for that, to be a representative for this area and to take your concerns back to the county and say, listen, this is what my peoples want. And so I look forward to hearing your concerns and your desires, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from our budget officer, Chris Trumbauer.
I'm worried that's going to fall. Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to be in District 1. As mentioned, I'm Chris Trumbauer. I am a budget officer, believe it or not. If you have a degree in chemistry, you can do anything, apparently. So we are, usually we do the county executive's message, but I understand he's on his way, so he'll talk to you in person himself. In the meantime, I'm going to go through a little bit of a fiscal outlook for us to kind of set the stage on how the administration is looking at the upcoming budget season. But before we do that, I want to talk about the timeline. And if you can see here, we've kind of got circled where we are at the end of January. And this is really important because no budget decisions have been made yet. And the reason that's important is because that's why the county executive wants to do the town halls now, so we can hear from constituents, so we can hear from advocacy groups on what you want to see in the budget before it gets to him and he has to make decisions. So everything that you guys input to us is part of the consideration of what makes it into the budget. And the budget process is here, and it's color-coded, okay? So the blue is when the administration is building the budget. So the county executive ultimately submits the budget. Right now, we've just received our departments and agency budget requests. So the budget office is now reviewing those internally. We'll ask a bunch of questions. We'll kind of get them in good shape, and then they go before the county executive, and he will make decisions on what to include and what not to include based on the amount of funding that we have. And then it gets handed off in that green box to the county council. County council then has 45 days to review the budget, to make amendments, ultimately to pass the budget. They have the Office of the Auditor review it, double check everything we've done. They always find mistakes or new information, and it's a good process that results in a triple check budget that hopefully most people are proud of at the end when it is passed in the middle of June. All right, so where do we get the money for this budget? It's about $2.3 billion with a B. That's our annual operating budget. Here's the pie chart that shows you. And the two biggest slices there, the blue and the red, that's property tax and that's income tax. Okay, about 3/4 of our revenue come from those two sources. We also get some from real estate activity and fees and permits, and we get some assistance from the state. We used to get assistance from the federal government. I don't know if that's happening anymore. But that's the pie chart of everything that we get for revenue. On the other side is where does the money go? Big blue, half the pie, Board of Education. Okay, so about half of our budget goes to pre-K through 12 public education system. Pays for our educators, pays for the school operations. We have more than 80,000 students in our system. That's a big expense. We want to give them the best education that we can. Next biggest chunk there is public safety. Then you see our land use core group and general government, which is like government operations. You can see how that's all parsed out. And this is all in much greater detail in the budget book if anyone's interested. All right, so what is actually in the budget? Whole lot of stuff. Don't have time to go through everything, but a couple highlights that we like to point out here. In the current year budget, which we're about halfway through, we're very proud that we increased our police starting salary to $70,000. That's the highest among the county jurisdictions. Yes, thank you. We have some men and women in the police department here tonight. I'm sure that they appreciate that, and we appreciate them. And then we also increased funding overall to our police and fire operations so they can cover more shifts and overtime to do all the amazing things that they do to keep us safe. We fully funded our rainy day fund or our revenue reserve fund. This is the money we hold back in reserve in case there's a recession or an economic downturn so that we can deploy that money instead of like furloughs or closing services and things like that. We started a number of new programs during the pandemic designed to help people. Not all of them were related to COVID. Some of them were just other social safety network programs. We found out a lot of them were doing a lot of good. The federal recovery funds went away. We want to keep some of those going, so we transitioned them over to county dollars funding them. And then this is something we're also very proud of. Last year, or in this current year, we fully funded the compensation request for our educators in the school system. And then we yes, thank you to our teachers. And then we received, for the second year in a row, a AAA bond rating from all three bond rating agencies. And that basically underscores something that Councilmember Smith said earlier, that we have been budgeting responsibly. The bond rating agencies think that the county's a good investment, and they're confident that we will continue to have a strong fiscal foundation. Okay. So now this is the fun part, and this is human nature, right? We like to compare ourselves to our neighbors, okay? So we pay taxes. How much are they paying north of us in Baltimore County or over in Howard, right? I got some good news for you. We're getting a pretty good deal in Anne Arundel County. So in this next couple charts, we're the gold bar, okay? The gold bar there is Anne Arundel. All the other blue are the other counties. All the way on the left, that great big bar, that's Baltimore City. This is showing you the property tax rate that we pay as homeowners on property. And ours is 98.3 cents per $100 of assessed value. That compares very favorably with other jurisdictions. Look at our friends in Baltimore City. They're paying like 2.25. Okay, that's like 3 times what we're but all of the counties to the left of our yellow bar, they're paying more than us in terms of the rate, okay? And those are all the other big counties, Howard, Prince George's, Montgomery, Frederick, all of those. And if you go to the next slide, you're going to see the income tax. This is an even better story. All of these other counties with the high bar, they're paying 3.2% on all the taxable income that they make. We have a little bit more complicated system where we have a tiered approach, but the average rate that most people pay for their income is 2.94. You can see that there's only 4 other counties that have a lesser rate than us, and those are counties on the Eastern Shore or in Western Maryland. Now, the reason that you see all these dotted lines and you see those 3 different numbers is because we have a progressive income tax rate here, and that means that for an individual filer, on the first $50,000 of taxable income you make, you're paying a lower rate, okay, 2.7%. And then for taxable income above that, up to $400,000, you're paying that 2.94 rate. And if you're doing pretty good and you're making over $400,000 a year, that's pretty good, right? That's still a lot of money. Then we're going to ask you to pay a little bit more. You're going to pay that 3.2%, but only on the dollars that are above that rate. So, for example, if you make $100,000 a year, it's a pretty good salary, you're going to pay 2.7% on the first 50,000 of that, and then the next 50,000, from 50,001 up to 100, you're going to pay that 2.94%, and that 3.2% won't touch you. See how that works? So that's a progressive income tax structure. Only one other county has chosen to do that besides Anne Arundel. We were the first, by the way, and it was County Executive Pittman's brainchild. Only Frederick County is the only other one that's done that. All right, so the other tax I mentioned is the recordation and transfer tax. This is on real estate activity, buy, sell houses, refinance. This graph shows you over time the amount of income or the amount of revenue we've gotten from that. Over on the left, this was the housing bubble of like 15, 20 years ago. Remember, it went up, then it went down. Okay, we saw that. Well, guess what? A few years ago, we saw another big steep increase. We knew it was going to go back down, so we didn't budget for that high level. We budgeted more conservatively, and then sure enough, it went down. That's bad news because we're getting less revenue, but it's good news because there's not a deficit because we didn't budget for that high amount. But what it means is, if you look at just a couple years ago, that peak, we were getting about $200 million in revenue, and this most recent year, we got closer to 110, 115. So that is over $80 million difference in revenue. Now, our hope is that that will slowly recover when interest rates go down, and we'll get more county revenue that we can spend on the programs and services that people depend on. Okay, next slide is just showing you visually that revenue reserve fund, or the rainy day fund. This administration's policy, and the council has been very supportive, is to keep that at the maximum amount so that we have funding ready to deploy in the case of an economic downturn. All right, next series of charts, we're going to show you over time how some funding increases have looked. Now, this is public safety funding, and what we've done is we've taken 20 years ago, 2005, we've taken that at the baseline, and this shows the percentage increase compared to that. And what you can see is over the first 10 or 15 years, kind of modest growth, a little bit flat line. And then you see that dotted line, that's in between the 2019 and 2020 budgets. That's where County Executive Pittman and this administration took over. You can see that dramatic increase. And that's because the administration and this county council has really prioritized public safety funding. We've increased for not only the fire department and the police department, but also the sheriff. And that's been a pretty dramatic increase because we've tried to staff up, we've tried to increase operations, and I think that's paid off, as you can see that we're doing pretty well when you look at our responses in public safety. Next one, this is green, this is Recs and Parks funding. And what you can see here is a similar story, a little bit up and down over the 10 years ago. And you can actually see that the funding went down during the Great Recession. And I was on the county council at that time, along with Pete Smith in his first term. And it was no fun when we had to make cuts. But unfortunately, Rec and Parks bore the brunt of some of that. And it was only recently that they got restored back to what they were in 2009. But then you see we start going up when Pittman is elected. Then there's a little dip because of the COVID pandemic. And remember, a lot of programs were shut down. They weren't running summer camps and stuff. So there was a little funding decrease there. But then they ramp right back up. And we've really been investing in our rec and parks operations to try and increase the amenities available to constituents. Board of Education funding is here in blue. Similarly, in the last 6 years during this administration, a pretty steep increase in Board of Education funding. This is not only because of the state mandates and the blueprint for education, but also because the administration very much values our educators and has been funding those things even before, thank you, that's for you guys, even before it was required to do so with the state law. And then this one is going to show you, these are 3 different Health and Human Services Department, our Department of Health, our Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, and our Department of Social Services. But you can see that's been a dramatic increase, especially over the last couple years, and that's largely due to us programs on the county dollar, shifting them over from the federal assistance dollars related to the pandemic. And then the final slide on this I'll show you is investments in affordable housing. Again, you can see, kind of little bit of growth, and then big increase. This coincides with the creation of our Housing Trust Fund, which is to promote increased opportunities for affordable housing in the county. All right, so local projects. This is a pretty full slide because there's a lot of stuff going on in District 1. Thanks to the administration, thanks to your council member, Mr. Smith. But we got transportation projects, we got school projects, lots of recs and parks stuff going on. We got environmental watershed projects, and we even got Brooklyn Park Library improvements. So a lot of construction happening in District 1, and a lot of people have been working to make that happen. All right, so this is where we're going to wind down. I'm going to look into the crystal ball, and people are going to say, Trumbauer, what do you think is going to happen with the budget? It's hard to say. We have a new president, and he's been there for a couple weeks, and he's already kind of doing some interesting things, and so that makes it a little bit more uncertain than usual. But if we put that aside for a second and we just look at the fundamentals of the economy, we're doing pretty good on the county level. We have been budgeting responsibly over the last 5 or 6 years, and that has placed us in a good position. You see the media stories on the state structural deficit. You might have friends in other counties, and their counties are looking in trouble. We have a very solid fiscal foundation. Our income tax revenues look stable outlook moving into next year. The recordation and transfer tax, I'm hoping will continue a slow recovery from that big dip, because of the high mortgage interest rates. The one that I'm worried about is state funds. We do get a fair amount of state funding, and that is in jeopardy with the state structural deficit. The General Assembly is in session now. They're debating their budget. Hopefully, we'll be held relatively harmless and continue to get some of the state aid that we depend on. But there is big uncertainty on the federal stage, and we've gone through a couple fire drills just this week because they paused all federal grants going to local nonprofits and governments, and then they unpaused it. But now they say that they were just kidding, it's still in effect, but then a judge stopped it. So my office has a little bit of whiplash. We're trying to figure this out. But what I can tell you is we've got about $33 million of federal grant money programmed into our budget. And if that's in jeopardy, that's a pretty large amount of funding. So we're following that very closely, but that uncertainty is not helpful when you're trying to build a budget. On the expenditure side, we have been growing in the last couple budgets, so there's been some increased expenses. We've had wage growth for our employees. We've had increased pension costs and debt service from all the capital construction that we're doing. We're also seeing less turnover in our county positions, which is good. We're filling vacancies, but that has an increased cost. And then all these increases that I've kind of mentioned some of them before, but material and labor costs are increasing. Our debt service payments, we've expanded some operations, and we're continuing those going forward. And then, of course, there's the increased Board of Education funding that is happening year to year. So all those things are putting pressure on the budget. All right, the last thing we're going to do is go through a little bit of an exercise, and we'll do this really quickly, but the county executive wanted you all to get kind of insight into what it's like to be him during budget time. And so what happens is the budget office, we give him a giant list of all the things we have to fund, and we start attaching numbers to it, and then we say, here's what's left, what do you want to do with it, right? And so to give you a little idea of that, this is showing on the right-hand side a table of all of the things that we will build a budget with. And at the very top, if you can see it, we are going to estimate that the amount of new revenue, recurring revenue, that we expect to get in the upcoming year, really early, don't hold me to this number, but let's say it's around $100 million. That's a pretty good year, okay? All right, so $100 million sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But let's see what happens. We have these non-discretionary increases, so things we have to pay for. We don't have any choice. That's our self-insurance fund, debt service on our capital projects, our vehicle rate adjustment, all this unsexy stuff that in budget world we have to plug numbers into, okay? So we add all those up. Off the top of my head, let's say $30 million, that's going to count. So we started at 100, now we're down. Still a lot, right? We can do a lot of that. Okay, guess what? We got to pay our employees, right? We got to do packages. So I don't know what that's going to cost this year. We're in negotiations. But last year, it was about $18 million. So just for the sake of argument, let's say it's 18 again. We're going to take $1 off of that 70. I think that's what, 52? Is my math right? 52, right? 52 million? 52 million, that's a lot, right? What can we do for 52 million? Guess what? The Board of Education superintendent was $94 million, okay? So that's almost twice of what I just told you we have left. Now, I'm not saying that the Board of Ed is asking for too much or to say that, we don't have enough money. I'm illustrating this to show you that we have a lot of competing needs and we have a finite amount of resources. And that's why these guys' jobs are so hard when it comes down to decision time. And that's why these town halls are so important, so that they can hear from you before any decisions are made. And so of that 52 million that I said that we have theoretically, here's what we got to figure out how to parse that up. Got to see what our library funding is, our community college funding, our Board of Education funding, our great departments and agency, of which we have several of our directors here. They have requests that they want, we call them supplemental requests, to do additional things. We need to figure that out. And then we've got to build in our just normal base increases of things got more expensive this year. So that puts a lot of pressure on the system. We always find a way to make every nickel go as far as it can, but I wanted to do that exercise to show you what it's like. Last couple slides here, just to kind of reiterate some of the things that are pressures on the budget. We've got continued high inflation. We've got that depressed recordation and transfer tax, worried about the state budget shortfalls, worried about the federal budget uncertainty, just a lot of pressures coming at us. But I'm not trying to leave you with doom and gloom. I'm just trying to say we're in a good position, but we got to be aware of all these things. Last thing is, if for some reason you didn't get enough information out of me sitting here and talking to you for 15 minutes, there's a whole other bunch of resources you can go and get stuff. We have Open Arundel. We have our Budget Buddy, where you can drill down into departmental budgets. We have the Budget Office page, where you can look up the current budget and previous ones. And then the most important one, I think, the Your Budget page. You can get this slide presentation. You can see the county exec's budget message, and you can also submit your input via email. And then the last page I'm going to show you, this is the email, budget-comments@aacounty.org. A lot of you are going to get up and speak tonight. If you're not going to, because you don't want to get up in front of us, that's fine. You can email it. We do read everything. We categorize every comment. The county exec and his team sees it. It's considered when we make final budget decisions. So I want you guys to know how important it is. Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for listening to me. I'm going to turn it back over to Renisha, or are we going to give it to, there he is. We're going to give it to the county executive, and he's going to give brief remarks before public comments.
Sorry, I'm late. Traffic. 97, yep. All I want to say is, first of all, thank you for coming out. District 1 is an area where we're putting a lot of investments in the county. Got the Severn Center, got the Brooklyn Park Center coming. I work with Councilman Smith on just about everything all the time, constantly in communication, and he's a huge advocate for everything in District 1. So go to him and he'll get it done. It's kind of the way it works. Go to us and we'll get it done too. But I want to just say something about the overall, a little bit based on, Chris said a lot of what I feel, but it is very, we're in a difficult position. We know that it's a tight budget year. It's not a terrible budget year. The county's in much better shape than the state government is right now with their deficit that they're trying to address. But this threat of loss of federal funding is real. I can tell you that we're a member of the Maryland Association of Counties, and all counties are feeling the same thing. We met today with the leadership of presiding officers, Senate President and Speaker of the House, and reiterated our concerns, the stress that we feel. The governor's budget could be a lot worse on counties, and we don't want to make it worse. Often what they do is they transfer their costs onto counties to get out of their budget crunches. They're doing cuts. They're doing revenue enhancements. I like some of the revenue enhancements that they're doing. They're going to the top of the income scale for some revenue where the top of the income scale has had major cuts in income tax rates over the years. And we know that the number one priority of this administration and Congress is to extend and enhance those cuts for people at the top of the income scale. And they pay for that by cutting anti-poverty programs. They pay for that by cutting education. They pay for that by cutting a lot of the things that are in our budget. That $33 million that Chris talked about is mostly stuff that our most vulnerable residents depend on. So a lot of the work that county government does, Department of Aging, Disabilities, Social Services, Health, Education, they all get more federal funding. Police Department gets some, Fire gets some, but it's really those agencies. We are taking all of that very seriously. Also met with Congresswoman Elfreth's office today about this very topic. But nobody knows exactly what will be cut. There are two bills that I've testified on in the Maryland General Assembly that could help us. I think Chris talked about how we got progressive income tax rates, but you can only go up to 3.2 in the state of Maryland. 70% of the residents in Maryland live in a county that is at 3.2 on the income tax, so you can't go higher. The only way you can create revenue in the county level is to go to the property tax and tax everybody's property at the same rate and increase it all together. So there's a bill that we're pushing very hard, and we talked to the leadership about today, that would allow counties to go to 3.7. So it'd be 0.5% more on the highest income earners. If that were to happen, that would be an opportunity for us to, I think, in a fair way, create some revenue. There's another bill that Montgomery County has really pushed, but the Maryland Association of Counties is pushing as well, that allows counties to do what municipalities are already allowed to do, which is to have a higher property tax rate for commercial properties than for residential properties, another 12.5 cents. There's a set aside, so small businesses can be exempt from that, but that allows us to create additional revenue as well if that were done. And then there's a third bill that MACO's supporting that it's like a sales tax. We don't get any of the sales tax. Counties don't get any of the sales tax, but this would be specifically for entertainment venues, food, drinks, things like that. It would create a lot of revenue from out of town guests in places where there's a lot of tourism, the airport, Annapolis, things like that. So that is something that's also before the General Assembly. And the governor's people have said that they understand that counties are always the ones that get, we're the last ones at the bottom of the food chain on money. And so by creating opportunities for us to create more revenue to fund the things we're talking about, that's a huge plus. None of those will be in effect for this budget. Even if they pass this year, they'll be for the next year. But so where it feels like there's no hope, there's still work being done to create hope. That's as good as it gets right now. Sorry. But we're not in terrible shape in Anne Arundel County right now. And if these cuts to the federal programs don't happen as bad as they're threatening, sometimes they just like to threaten to kind of put you on your heels and make you be glad you got anything, then we're not in terrible shape. So, but we'll listen, and really glad that you're all here.
Yeah, I was simply going to say there are two other individuals that walked in. I see Delegate Simmons over here, who represents District 12B. And our school board member, Ms. Gloria Dent, who's right there as well. So, and that's important. I want you all to recognize that line in the sand. So when there are school issues, while we fund the school system, it really is a partnership. And so I want you all to know Gloria's face. Not that I'm trying to put her out there like that, but she is like the go-to person for District 1. If there are issues in the school systems there, I go straight to her. So if you send it to me, that's exactly who I'm going to. So thank you for being here, both of you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. I had that on my list, so I can cross it off now. Now is the time where we hear from you. This is the part of the evening that you came here for. So I have a bunch of logistical stuff that I'm going to read, and then we'll get right into it. All right, everybody say 2 minutes. Okay, you're awake. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to give their testimony. You'll see a timer on the screen. Tanner already has it set up to help you keep track of time. For the sake of time, the county executive and council member won't respond to every comment, but they are listening and taking notes, just like Chris said. I will begin by calling names of the people who signed up to speak when they checked in this evening, starting with residents of District 1, and then followed by everyone who signed up to speak, everyone else. I will call a few names at a time, probably 4, just to give it an even number. When I call your name, please line up in order behind the microphone. The microphone's right in front of me. After we have gotten through the list of people who signed up to speak, we will open the floor for anyone else who would like to share their budget requests. If we don't have time to hear from you tonight, or you think of something else you'd like to share, please email your request to budget-comments@aacounty.org, and I'll remind you throughout the evening as well. All right, so now I'll call several of you, and please line up behind the microphone in order to speak. Furthermore, please speak directly into the mic so that we can hear you clearly. And please state your name before you begin. So I'm going to call up 4 of you at a time, and I used to be a teacher, so I'm going to employ my best phonetic skills. But if I'm wrong and I get your name incorrect, please correct me into the microphone, because that's important. We want to make sure that we have your correct name. So Kevin Morgan, Cindy Wyatt, Teresa Watson, and Shelby Moeller. Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Kevin Morgan, and I'm here to speak to you on behalf of Hope for All, which I know you both know very well. Hope for All is a Christian ministry dedicated to providing essential furniture, household items, and clothing for individuals in our community facing financial hardships, particularly those transitioning from homelessness or crisis situations, and to help them establish healthy homes. We have had a dramatic 67% increase in the number of referrals we have received over the past 2 years. Many of those referrals, as you know, come from the county departments of the health department, public schools, crisis response, just to name a few. In the past 2 years, we have seen a 34% increase of referrals from the public school system, 43% increase from Anne Arundel County crisis response, and from the health department, 184% increase of referrals. The surge in referrals speaks volumes about the trust and confidence these agencies have placed in Hope for All. However, with the number of individuals needing assistance is on the rise and has outpaced donations received. We respectfully request that you consider increasing funding for our nonprofit, so to enhance our community services and support those in need. You have assisted us in helping over 20,000 individuals over the past 20 years. That's amazing. The success of our partnership is a testament to the shared commitment of Hope for All to the county and serving the community's needs. If we are all working towards the same goal to support the community, this will ensure everyone has access to the resources that they need. But there is much more to be done. As we ask that you continue to support Hope for All and explore how we can build upon the success and create even more robust systems of support in our community. Thank you so much. Oh, I had 15 seconds left.
Would you like to give it to someone else? Just kidding.
Do I stand on my toes?
You can turn it, point it downward. He didn't mean that.
Okay, I'm Cindy Wyatt. I'm from Linthicum, and I want to thank you for having this kind of a meeting that lets residents talk about what's important to them. And I'm here to talk about safe routes for bicycling and walking. I moved here from Baltimore City about 10 years ago because I was looking for a neighborhood where I didn't have to use a car for everything, where I could walk and bike safely. And I'm happy with my choice. But we need more investment in trails, bike lanes, signage, traffic signals, etc., to make things safer for cyclists and pedestrians as they try to coexist with cars. And please note, this is not just about recreation. We have residents who don't have cars or access to cars. And for them, walking and cycling, often in concert with public transit, is transportation. This is how they get to work, they get to the doctor, they get to school, and they need to be safe. We have several county initiatives that include provisions for safe cycling and walking, and that's great, but progress has been slow. This part of the county benefits greatly from the BWI Trail, access to the B&A Trail, but much more work is required for there to be safe routes into Baltimore City and over to the rapidly growing Arundel Mills area. So my request is to please continue to support the development of safe bicycling and walking routes in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay. The reason I wanted to pause there is because I think it's important for folks who spend their time and come here that it's not falling on deaf ears. And I also value that citizens know exactly where I'm at on a specific issue, whether we agree with it or not, because I think being honest and transparent with everyone here is always the best recipe for success. And so when it comes to the trails specifically, she said that it had been slow in its sort of development, if you will. I will take ownership of that slowness. I don't want to say it's the county executive fault. It has 100% been my fault. And that was because I really wanted us to focus on the safety in some of those neighborhoods in the northern part of Anne Arundel County, North Lincoln Improvement Association, Pumphrey's, for example. Over the years, they've had concerns over violent activity happening in their neighborhoods, and I really wanted to focus on that first. That's why I've been a fan of the public safety cameras and things like that. Safe walkways and intersections, I'm certainly okay with that. But I think I've been trying to navigate the sort of priorities of I want people to feel safe in their homes first before I sort of make these additional pathways that exposes people. I could be wrong to some of you all, and I promise, and I'm sorry if that's the case, but I really want to make sure every citizen in District 1, certainly in these northern part of the counties, feel safe when they come outside of their house, and that has been my priority as far as funding and allocating those resources to that first before some of the other programs that the county executive has 100% been willing to fund, especially the widened trails along Pumphrey's community. So just, I wanted you to know it's not him. It has been me, and I will take ownership of my successes as well as any failures that I have. So I just wanted you to know that. Just the one trail. I'm just saying it's blame me. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And I did see our library CEO, Skip Auld, walk in. So welcome, Skip. Thanks for being here. Ms. Watson. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Teresa Watson. I'm a TSA at Glendale Elementary School. I've been a TSA for 7 years. I love my job. I just love the children, and I just love it. But we encounter significant behaviors daily, including hitting, kicking, spitting, eloping, and much more. As much as I love my job, it is not a livable wage. I challenge you to come work my position for a day. I wish you would, truthfully. You would. We make $16 an hour, and that's just not livable. So, unfortunately, I am looking for another position, looking to move on, another job, because 16 an hour just isn't cutting it. I just feel we deserve to be paid more for our hard work. We only get paid when the kids are in school, so all summer, which we understand that, but for what we do, and we love our kids. We're there for the kids. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Okay, I don't know how to work that. Hi,
My name is Shelby Moeller. I am also a TSA at Glendale Elementary School with Teresa. She is right. We don't get paid for snow days, holidays, anything like that. We had a paycheck recently that was 2 days. That was all we were paid for. We deal with the significant behaviors. We also are the ones that are implementing every accommodation on the IEP plan, whether that is educational, OT, speech. They get pulled for these services, but what needs to be implemented on a daily basis is our job. And this is not for one child. This is for up to 5, 6, 7 in a day. It is a lot of work to do what we do, and we do love it. We love our kids. We love what we do. But to get 16-ish an hour and have a paycheck that is 2 days is not livable, and it is not something that most TSAs can sustain. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, I have 5 more individuals on my district resident list. I'm going to go ahead and call all 5. So Jennifer Stivers, Tessa Stevens, Carmen Hines, Dennis O'Toole, and Brian Nichols. Byron Nichols. My apologies.
All right. Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilman Smith. I'm Jennifer Stivers, an animal care and control volunteer for almost 8 years. Over the past few town halls, we have hammered home that the animal care and control facility was built in 2000 for temporary stays of animals, most of whom were quickly euthanized. Let me explain what the facility was not built for: providing animal care and services to the county. The shelter's clinic, for example, was not designed for routine care. The clinic has been improved over the years, mostly in thanks to the Friends charity and their donors, but space is fixed. It can't be changed. The number of surgeries that can be performed in a day are limited in part by the number of kennels that fit in the clinic. There's another room that we use for overflow, but that is space for dogs that we could be using otherwise. Additionally, the depth of care provided in-house could be improved with more equipment, such as an x-ray machine, but there is no unoccupied space this could be placed. I hear the filing room is an option. The facility was not built to serve the number of citizens that come to the rabies clinics, as seen by lines of cars parked on the road that has no median. The facility was not designed for health and safety, exemplified by uneven floors and cat isolation that pose fall hazards, and an unconnected floor drain in the cat visitation room, which has been cemented shut and makes the room difficult to clean. The facility was not designed for animal enrichment, with drains and dog kennels being the perfect size for toys and bones to get lodged. We have coped with these inadequacies for almost 25 years, in part by making improvements via the Friends Group and many Eagle Scout projects. However, the trail built by volunteers and scouts for dog enrichment has been destroyed, and due to lack of green space cannot really be replaced. It is time for us to speak up. The county must begin planning for a new animal care and control facility for a better future for the animals in this county.
Hi, I'm Tessa Stevens. I'm just here as an individual. So I want to start by saying how much I love this community. I found it really welcoming. Everyone always looks out for each other. However, I've noticed a slow but steady concerning rise in homelessness and food insecurity. And it's hard to have a thriving community when so many members of it feel scared and left behind. I know there's a lot of, if you have a nice walking route, you presumably have more people outside. So maybe that would help with safety, or you just get more people outside who you don't want lingering around. Also, I never would have guessed that the progressive tax was so uncommon, so thank you for doing that. And those 2 bills you mentioned in the General Assembly, especially the first 2, sounded fantastic. So just be curious if there's anything I could do as an individual to maybe help support this. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Carmen Hines, and I'm a resident of the Pumphrey-Patapsco Park community and a member of the Patapsco Park Improvement Association. And we're requesting support with changing our zip code from Brooklyn 21225 to one that is consistent with Anne Arundel County. For example, 21025. While Pumphrey's issue impacts Brooklyn Park, Harbor Valley, and other communities, it may not directly affect the fiscal year 2026 budget. Nevertheless, it is a budget priority because it impacts our residents. We've experienced increases in home, auto, and business insurance. I spoke to one resident as recently as yesterday, and his car insurance had increased $200 per month. There is difficulty in getting services to the Brooklyn zip code. For example, I called a plumbing service, and when I gave them my address, Brooklyn, Maryland, they said, we don't come to Brooklyn. I explained to him, I don't physically live in Brooklyn, but he said, you gave me a Brooklyn zip code, so we don't come to Brooklyn. 311 and 911 services have been referred to Baltimore County and Baltimore City. I've yet to get Arundel County when I've called 311. More recently, a resident of Harbor Valley received a summons for jury duty in Baltimore City based on the 21225 zip code. Recent coverage for fire and ambulance services were changed to the Linthicum Fire Department from Brooklyn Park. Children in our community on the northwest side of Belgrove Road were moved to Overlook Elementary, while children on the northeast side of Belgrove Road continue enrollment in Brooklyn Park Elementary. We've been working on a petition in our community. We have 374 signatures from current and former residents and engaged supporters. We have the support of our 3 elected officials, Pete Smith, Gary Simmons, and Clarence Lamb. It is our desire for the county to assist us with this endeavor that has plagued us for almost 70 years. We've reached out to Ms. Jane Cox and Mr. Vincent Molden in the county. However, it appears this process requires much more than our communities are capable of handling. So we need some support and someone to intervene on our behalf. Thank you.
Good evening. Dennis O'Toole, President, Ridgewood Community Association. Hearing the speaker before me, I was a police officer and worked in the Pumphrey area. Exactly what she said and what occurred to me several times. Problems would occur, and I wouldn't get the call. Instead, Baltimore City got the call, and Pumphrey suffered. And this was back in the early 70s. Okay, on to my problem. Our community is just... Our community is just south of Arundel Mills. It's the most frequent calls for service of emergency services for Anne Arundel County. I understand the police officers there have gone to 12-hour days or are going to 12-hour days. I retired from the county police service as a supervisor, went to work for the Secret Service as a trainer, interacted with agencies throughout the country, and also working with the Secret Service. I saw what happens when you push your officers too far. As an example, the attempt on President Trump's life was an example of when you push officers too hard. We had a failure in operations. Again, I worked with those people. I trained those people. They failed because they were pushed too hard. That doesn't come out, but talking to the people that I know, that was the failure. And I am an expert in police use of force, and unfortunately, when we go to 12-hour days, it's going to be deadly. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Byron Nichols.
If I can ask, which community? You said south of Arundel Mills, but you didn't say which community. Which community were you in? Are you in?
Okay, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Which community do you live in?
Ridgewood community.
Oh, Ridgewood. Yes.
We talked.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Nichols, are you here or would like to? All right. On to our next list. Medea Rahimi. And I believe it's 2 individuals that are coming up to the microphone. Thank you. Brian Holtzlander, Maria Coate, Katie Zawadny.
Hello, my name is Jessica Coulter, and I'm the Executive Director of Annapolis Immigration Justice Network.
Hello, I'm Madiha Rahimi. I'm the Operations and Development Manager at AIJN.
We are here tonight to request continued funding for legal and wraparound services for immigrant children through Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And while Madiha was not a client of AIJN, it was her experience fleeing her country that drew her into our mission. I'm honored to stand by her side as she shares her story of coming to the U.S.
In 2021, I was forced to flee my home in Afghanistan when Taliban took over. I had to leave behind not only my family and friends, but also the life I had spent years building and the future I had envisioned. Like so many others around the world, I had to do the unimaginable and leave behind everything to seek safety. I came to the U.S. with nothing more than just a small suitcase. In those early days, it wasn't just the daily challenges of starting over that weighed on me. It was the uncertainty of not knowing what tomorrow would bring. It was the fear of being separated from my family and the worry that I would be caught in a system that didn't understand me or care for my story. I knew I wasn't alone. There were countless others like me who had lost everything, who were facing the same fear and uncertainty, who needed the same support I was searching for. I understand what it feels like to be alone in a new country, without the knowledge or resource to navigate the system that's not always welcoming. And it's from that experience that I urge you to continue funding the AIJN's program. This program helps children and youth, those who have been pushed to the margins of the society, finding safety, stability through the Immigration Legal Counsel and support services. Access to legal counsel can change everything. I would not be here as an asylee if I didn't have an immigration attorney guiding me through this process. It brings stability, hope, and safety to people who have lost it all. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Holtzlander?
I'm Brian Holtzlander with Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters. I'm here to talk a little bit about how we need more firefighters. I could tell a lot of stories, but I'll suffice it to say that everyone here can understand that 2 is faster than 1, 3 is faster than 2, and when it comes to saving lives, every second counts. Not least of which also, some ambulances is better than no ambulances, which is frequently the state of affairs here post-pandemic as we try to meet the needs of our citizens. But we're firefighters, so I don't come here just with a hand out or a hand open. We come with solutions, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about SAFER grants. That is federal money that your taxes are already paying that will put firefighters, desperate needed firefighters, on the street right now today. We've asked the fire chief for years to apply, and she has failed to do so. And why that's so unconscionable is that means that every year your money goes out the door to other places. In just the last couple of years, $25 million to Frederick County alone, $3 million to Baltimore County alone, and hundreds and thousands of other smaller awards throughout the state and the country. Again, that is your money that you will never see again. So we need to apply for the SAFER grants now. Tell your representatives you want your money to keep you safe, your community safe, and your family safe, and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Maria Cote. I'm a teacher at Bates Middle School in Annapolis, and I wanted to let you know that right now young teachers are leaving the profession in droves. They see their college classmates making real money with time left over to have a life. Or they're just leaving Anne Arundel County because Howard, Montgomery, PG, and Baltimore pay much better. At the same time, you've got older teachers who are retiring as fast as they can. And if they can't retire, they are also leaving to the surrounding counties. Now we're going to play Let's Pretend. So the first pretend is pretend you do not approve the Board of Education budget or the taxes to fund it. Our next step is pretending you're running for county executive while the biggest teacher shortage of the past 20 years is hitting Anne Arundel County. Schools unstaffed, kids underserved, test scores at record lows, and parents unhappy. Your opponent is able to remind everyone that you are to blame for this crisis. You voted against a budget that would help teachers stay in the profession. You chose not to fix our schools. Do you really think you're going to get elected? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Katie Zawadny, and I'm the branch manager of the Brooklyn Park Library, one of 3 libraries in District 1, including the Lithicum and Severin libraries. Every library is dedicated to supporting and empowering the residents of our county. In just the past few weeks, library staff at my branch have helped connect individuals going through a reentry program to volunteer activities, and we conduct monthly technology help hours at the Brooklyn Park Senior Center. This month, our team helped a senior learn how to use her phone for the entire hour. Our customers value the services offered by the library, and here's what they have to say. I was in need of printing some documents critical to my work tonight. Holly helped me print almost 50 pages of very important work. Please recognize her for making my life easier and lowering my blood pressure. Thanks to the ability to rewrite my resume and also apply for jobs, I go tomorrow for fingerprinting and badging to be an AACPS employee. Thank you again for this opportunity I wouldn't have had. Meaningful interactions like these occur daily throughout our library system, highlighting the essential role we serve in the community. I'm here this evening to testify in support of the library's budget and to advocate for desperately needed renovations to the Brooklyn Park Library. Our library is over 50 years old and needs updates to make it accessible to the entire community. We will do this by adding an elevator to our basement meeting room, updating bathrooms, and addressing a number of problematic building issues. One of the benefits of the elevator is that it will address multiple leaking and flooding issues in the library. This will help create a library that is better positioned to serve the community, whether that is by providing free Chromebooks, access to a social worker, or supporting kindergarten readiness in Brooklyn Park. For these reasons, I respectfully request your consideration in funding this project. I also want to extend my gratitude to County Executive Pittman and Councilman Pete Smith for their unwavering support of the library, including the market rate adjustments over the past 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. All right. Betsy Bender, O'Brien, O.B. Atkinson, A.J. Gardner, and Mike Shire. Go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Betsy Bender, and I'm on the board of the County Library Foundation. I was inspired to serve because as a lifelong resident of the county, I've personally benefited from the library's role in our community and seen the power of educating, enriching, and inspiring our neighbors. From my perspective, the library is fundamental to creating a wonderful place to live, work, and raise families. I spoke at my home district's hearing and offered to speak again tonight because I'm the Foundation's liaison for the Brooklyn Park branch. I understand the special role our library plays in meeting the needs of people in this district. Thank you, Councilmember Smith and County Executive Pittman, for your support of the library's budget for salary adjustments over the last 2 years. People are the engine that drives the success of any organization, especially one that provides so many services and serves its customers throughout their entire lives, as our libraries do. This is why the highest priority for the library's budget this year is the addition of critical staff positions in materials management, facilities management, data analysis, and human resources. With record-breaking circulation numbers, the library needs enhanced operational support to manage increased customer demand. They need a dedicated data analyst to harness the power of data to improve decision-making and efficiency and optimize services. And they hope to add resources for staff development. Currently, just 1.5 positions are dedicated to training and development for hundreds of employees. Adding this resources will ensure the library is well prepared to meet evolving customer needs. I urge you to support these requests so that the library can continue to thrive and provide the outstanding resources and opportunities that make such a meaningful difference in the lives of our residents. Thank you for listening, thank you for your service, and thank you again for past and continuing support of the library and its staff.
Good evening. O'Brien Atkinson, president of our local fraternal order of police. Councilman Smith, in 2018, after 4 years on our county council, you said you would advocate for an increase in our police department staffing to 1,300 sworn officers. You said that was the number needed to sustain Anne Arundel County. 4 years later, you said, I will commit to funding future growth in positions as I believe our police department should be a 1,200 sworn officer police department. This is the same number the county executive has repeatedly stated that we need to have. Today, if the two of you would advocate for us to get 1,100 officers or even 1,000 officers, it would be appreciated. The police department has moved scores of detectives out of our investigative bureau to supplement patrol so that an officer shows up when you dial 911. They're preparing to move the rest of patrol into a shift schedule that requires officers to work 12-hour days with mandatory overtime for all officers to fill the staffing gaps. These moves are Band-Aids. We need police officers. We need hundreds of police officers. Sir, we believe you've tried and you've made strides. We know that your efforts have kept us afloat but we're still treading water, and we still do not have enough officers to properly serve this county today. 3 years ago, Mr. County Executive, you said step one is to make the job attractive enough that we can fill existing positions, and the next will be to create those new positions. You said you'd done both in your first term, and you would continue to do both in your second. You can't make our job more attractive, but you can make it worth the personal, physical, and legal risks. Today, 100 of our less than 800 officers are eligible to retire. We don't want that to happen, and we need your support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. My name is A.J. Gardner. I'm a 30-year law enforcement officer with the FOP and also Anne Arundel County Police. I've run these streets in Northern. I've been in every district in this county. And I can tell you about the crime and the violence and the lack of staffing here in Anne Arundel County when it comes to police officers. Mr. Pittman, we believe you have lofty ambitions for this county. We have heard you speak about it before, but we think it's important to look back on what those ambitions look like and what your commitment to this county has been. At a police academy graduation, you said, and I quote, "My commitment, and I think I can speak for most of our residents, is that we want to support you," meaning the county police department. In an interview on local news talking about our police department staffing, you said, and I quote, "The problem is that we can't fill the positions right now. So that means the solution has to do with compensation." You highlighted our $20,000 signing bonus, which is awesome, and you get it over a period of time. And you said that in many interviews, and that has recently been cut in half. You told the audience at a budget town hall last year that you heard from us, that we are frustrated, and you understand why, that you do get it, and I think you do. But you are having trouble with the solution part of it, that you don't have answers. But the FOP has tried to offer solutions to attract and retain officers. Yes, some of that costs money, but when it comes to staffing, you said, and I quote, "We have to get there." You recognize that we are below adequate staffing by any metric, and I've heard that for 30 years. Yes, some of that happens, and I understand the retention and the cost. In 2016, we should have been at 824 officers, and we're still stuck around about 763 officers today. We should be at 1,100. Today, you and Mr. Smith both agreed to that. That means we are at an actual 30% deficit of officers.
Mr. Gardner, would you please conclude your comment? Thank you.
I hear you. That gap is being filled by officers that are here now. We're being overworked. We're being asked to do a lot more. We're expected to work at 150% capacity with only, we're not getting to 50% more pay. This is not sustainable. It hasn't been sustainable. You said you don't want to have to leave office until you get the highest salaries in the state. In credit, $70,000 is awesome, but you're asking us to do it and risk our lives.
Mr. Gardner, would you please complete your
There's plenty
comments?
of other time that was there. Let me finish. I got one more sentence.
Sir.
Everybody else here is doing 2 minutes. You can meet with me anytime. The union meets with me all the time. Please respect the 2 minutes that everybody else is respecting.
Thank you for your time. Maybe that's half the problem.
Good evening. I'm Mike Shire. I'm with the Fraternal Order of Police. I've been a police officer for 20 years and 364 days. Yeah, if we count. I recently had an opportunity to hear from and speak with Sergeant Matthew Eversman. For those that don't remember, he was a U.S. Army Ranger in the Battle of Mogadishu, commonly known from the book and the movie Black Hawk Down. He led a small group of Rangers who were trying to put down a murderous gang in a corner of the world that everyone had forgotten. They were always outnumbered, and on that day, they were almost overwhelmed. So he told a story about how he's put in charge of a small group of Rangers that day. He stressed the importance of people. You can have the best gear, the best cars, the best computers, but without people, highly trained and highly motivated people, you simply will not succeed. Most people here at home thought that the Battle of Somalia ended in disaster, but if you ask the men that were serving there, they would say that they won. They won against overwhelming odds because the people that were there making decisions and never giving up. As I listened, I thought about a lot about our police department, its officers. Throughout my career, people have told me how much they love the police department. I think what they mean is that they love the people in the police department. It's the people who make a difference. It's the people who bring compassion, courage, and commitment to all of our citizens. Right now, our police officers are winning. They're doing it against overwhelming odds. Our surrounding jurisdictions have crime rates that are much higher than ours, and our officers are mustering double strength to protect our communities. Just like our friends in the fire service, we are fighting to keep all of our citizens safe. But our agency's morale is falling fast as the realization sets in that the county may not put the resources into fixing our crisis-level staffing, as staffing shortages plague our agency year after year. If we do not invest in our people, the gear will go unused, the cars will be empty, the computers will collect dust. We've made strides. I think you've helped us put compensation packages together that have kept us afloat, as Obi said, but we have more work to do. Please invest in the people that make our police department work for our citizens in Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shire. All right, so I have 7 more people on my list before we open the floor for anyone who is not signed up to speak in advance. So just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes, and we want to make sure everything that you have to say tonight is important. We have a limited amount of time to be here, so please respect the 2-minute time limit, which I know you all will. Pamela Myers, Susan Youngs, Dina Edmonds, Melissa Sisk, Ishani Gandhi, Leah Paley, and Sharisa Cephas. Go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Myers, and I'm a board member of the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. I would like to thank the county executive and Councilmember Smith for the opportunity to share input about the fiscal 2026 budget. First off, thank you for your previous support of the Anne Arundel Food Bank in fiscal 2025, when you included $1.5 million in that year's budget. I'm here to ask that you again include $1.5 million in financial support for the work of the Anne Arundel County Food Bank in the fiscal 26 county budget. Our food bank provides a vital service to the people of our county by distributing millions of pounds of food and basic necessities each year. Our goal is to alleviate food insecurity and help bring stability to low-income households in our county. Many working people in our community must rely on the resources provided by the Anne Arundel County Food Bank to local pantries to help families keep food on the table. Nourishing food is provided free of charge, ensuring that families don't have to choose between eating and paying for rent, heat, prescriptions, and other survival essentials. Currently, the Anne Arundel County Food Bank supports more than 51,000 instances of service every month in our community. As a resident of Anne Arundel County for over 40 years, I'm committed to supporting my local community, and I'm proud to live in a place where the local government also supports the efforts of nonprofits. On behalf of the Food Bank Board, thank you for supporting us last year. We respectfully ask for you to invest our county resources where they can make the greatest positive impact in our community by providing $1.5 million in funding for the Anne Arundel County Food Bank in fiscal 2026 county budget. Thank you again for providing the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
For years, volunteers in purple shirts have attended budget hearings to alert our elected officials that animal care and control needs your attention. We have discussed the inadequacies of our antiquated, inefficient, and possibly unhealthy facility for both animals and the humans who work in it. ACC does not discriminate by district. The staff is there to help both animals and people who are in need of professional services, no matter where it is in the county. Besides the serious challenges of our aged building, construction of a new police forensic facility right next to ACC has caused a serious and potentially dangerous situation. The existing dog exercise runs are being demolished. Yes, new runs are being constructed, but they are little more than a sidewalk width away from the building. This has created a dangerous situation as volunteers walking shelter dogs and the public who are coming to the receiving area converge. I am hopeful that Animal Care and Control will be an official independent department in the near future, and the process of proceeding with a feasibility study for a new building will begin soon. To that end, I ask that Councilman Smith and Mr. Pittman, who I've mentioned this before, come to the shelter and see why the proverbial last straw has dropped and the process of building a new state-of-the-art public access animal shelter must proceed immediately. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deanna Edmonds. It looks like Dina, though.
Almost got it.
Okay.
Next to
So
it's a
I am a second grade teacher at Glendale Elementary School. Shout out to my TSAs who came from Glendale with me. Now in second grade right now, we're learning about cycles of nature. And we just learned about the life cycle of a chicken, which led to getting them to discuss the philosophical question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. They had great discussion about it. But it makes me think about which came first, the teacher shortage or the unsustainable workload. As you can see, we've brought our grading with us, so because we still have to keep working even when we're off the clock and we don't get that overtime. We've heard from the unsustainable working conditions of the TSAs, and while we haven't heard from them, we know the custodians also do not make a living wage, and they are also overworked, and the same with food service workers who are paid based on the number of meals that students buy at a school. It's not a restaurant, it's a school. It shouldn't be based on that. So please, we know it's a big cost, but education is worth the investment. Our children are worth the investment. So please fully fund the budget and keep taxing the people who are earning way more than all of us at the bottom who are fighting over the scraps. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashani Gandhi. I'm a resident of District 1, and here today I'm representing the county library system. I'm a board of trustee with the county as well as a member of the foundation board. In the past 3 years as a board member, I've really seen our library thrive. I want to first thank both of you for your support for the library system and our supplemental and capital requests in the past. Every day our library staff uses resources, provides job training, skill building, weekly kindergarten readiness classes. Most recently at the Brooklyn Park Library, we're helping provide Chromebooks on a long-term basis for our customers. And in order to sort of continue that, I'm here this evening to ask for your help in supporting our kindergarten readiness initiative. We're requesting additional support, especially to assist with early literacy specialists, as well as a dedicated vehicle to bring essential education resources and interactive activities directly to our communities. These resources really would help some of our initiatives, such as 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, really help us, our librarians, provide the best foundational reading and learning skills to young children in the community. Additionally, I would like to request your support for renovations of the Brooklyn Park Library system. As already mentioned earlier this evening, that would really help our community come together and use the resources available to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leah Paley. I'm the CEO of the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input about the budget this evening. We're grateful to the county for your long-standing support. Last year, that was $1.5 million, and we're asking for you to consider including that in the budget again. I recognize that you have some very difficult decisions. There's a lot of worthy causes. People are speaking about some of the folks who are not making a livable wage. Those are the same folks that we're seeing at our food pantry distributions. You're aware that we have over 76 partners at 115 different distribution points that are distributing food every single month. Last year in District 1, over 90,000 instances of assistance across 23 partner locations. That's 21% more than it was the year before. The number of food insecure people is up 30% from the year before. Currently over 61,000 individuals in our county are food insecure. And we just ask that at this difficult time, especially when there's so much uncertainty around federal funding, and this would directly impact us if some of those freezes were to go into effect, the TFAP food that we've relied on as one of our sources would no longer be available. We have folks that are scared to come to food pantry distributions because there is fear about ICE raids. We want to continue to offer these services, partner with our partners, and we need your support desperately at this time. So thank you very, very much for all that you've done, all that you will do, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I am Cher Cephas. Although I live in a different district, I often work in this building as an AACPS educator. I also attend a church that I think is in this district. At previous hearings, I have listened to my neighbors ask for meaningful and helpful funding. As a mom of 4 AACPS students and daughter of 2 Anne Arundel residents who are on the top tier tax bracket, I want to say all 3 generations of us want better schools and safe, whole communities. At one hearing I attended, a neighbor and former Anne Arundel County office employee referred to voters making a decision about our revenue. After the meeting, I asked him when this vote occurred, and he shared that to his knowledge, the last time voters made a decision about revenue, it was in the 80s, potentially before I was born, and definitely before I moved to Anne Arundel County. So I ask that you put your heads together before the county executive's time is up to let those of us who are now residents and voting almost 40 years after the initial revenue discussion happened to have a say. Please help me help you generate the support necessary to get better schools, safe streets due to having all well-paid and rested police officers and fire departments, and properly compensated public health professionals and educators, and all of everyone else that works in schools. I ask you to support the school board's budget, throw a little extra if you like, and to lead our county to get the revenue needed so that today's residents can have a say and get well paid in the 21st century rather than relying on the opinions of voters from the 80s. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Pittman and Mr. Smith, I know you have a very difficult decisions to make, and I appreciate the time that you lend tonight to hear your citizens. I work in District 1, and I've been serving as a special educator for the last 20 years. I would like to make an analogy that often when you go out for an experience, maybe a dinner, your expectation is to have a great experience with the wait service, servers. You know, you come in and you ask that, you know, all your wants and needs are made, you know, whether it's drinks and appetizers, entrees, maybe even a dessert. Well, that's what we expect with the staffing when we go out for and find dinner. But in education, we also should have those high expectations. I'm here to ask the council to pass Dr. Burdell's recommendations for fully funding all the special needs positions and all the positions that we have vacancies. We need to hire all the positions for teachers, instructional support, IEP facilitators, and any other ones that are out there that I have not mentioned. As a special educator, I'm being paid to do all kinds of things that not necessarily relates to teaching. I'm feeding children because they're on feeding protocols. A TA may not be there or not enough showed up, so I'm changing diapers. And, you know, the list just goes on and on. You know, I'm running meetings, I'm doing hours of clerical work, paperwork that we need to meet for federal guidelines. Sometimes these are outside of the school hours. Like my analogy, I'm doing all the duties in the restaurants.
Thank you. Would you please conclude your remarks?
And I would like you to take the priority of our students and our special needs students in particular to make sure that they have the best education. These are our students, our future Anne Arundel County citizens, and they deserve a quality education. Thank you, and I ask that you pass Dr. Bedell's budget.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify, is your name Melissa Sis? Okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't skip anyone. So that concludes my list of folks who signed up in advance. Now we're going to open the floor to hear from anyone who has not spoken. If you would like to speak on something that we have not heard about tonight, or if you'd like to add anything, feel free to line up behind the microphone, speak directly into the microphone, and make sure that you say your name, please, for the record.
Good evening. My name is Martha McNally Rowe. I am a resident of Linthicum, and I am a retired NSA employee. Please do not hold that against me. What I want to mention here is the transportation for disabilities problem in Anne Arundel County. Being a person with a disability, and I am legally blind, means that I have never been able to drive a car. Being a person with a disability can be a very precarious, frightening, parallel existence, not experienced by those without disabilities, particularly those of us who depend on other people for transportation. I have noticed that there are only two kinds of transportations that the county has set up, meaning the paratransit and the taxi voucher, neither of which is tenable or meets the needs of many people with disabilities. Also, we have many volunteers. They are not reliable. And you could say you could use Uber or Lyft. One must have money for those things. And this is what happened to me last week. I was stranded by Uber on North Calvert Street in Baltimore for various reasons, and I have given a complaint out. You do not do this to people with disabilities who are senior citizens, who are taxpayers as well. I would ask that the county would consider more programs, but not only that, ask the people with disabilities what they want. I have not been asked, and I have lived in this county for 37 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak tonight?
I did want to comment on Martha, not holding it against you for working on Fort Meade, because I worked there as well. And so I want you to know I'm grateful for your service and the sacrifice, and look forward to speaking with you here in the very near future. Thank you.
All right, well, seeing none, thank you for making the trip out tonight. Thank you for your honesty, and thank you for the trust that you put in your elected officials. That's what we're here for. If you have any additional budget comments, remember that we are keeping track of them. Please email them to budget-comments@aacounty.org. It's also up on the screen. Now, I'm going to turn it over to our elected officials for closing remarks, starting with our Councilmember Smith.
Yes, I'll stand. Again, I'm grateful for everyone that showed up today, came out and sort of given your testimony, if you will. Many of you don't know that was a police officer that really kind of put me on a path I'm on today. It was a teacher that inspired me to be in the sort of environment that I'm working on right now. It was food banks that my mom got food from, because we moved 15 different times before I turned 18. So a lot of the organizations and nonprofits that are here today that are servicing communities, those same organizations helped me when I was a child. I want you to know your concerns have not fallen on deaf ears, because the things that helped save my life, you had better believe that I'm going to fight hard to make sure we have the funding for it, to make sure that they continue. Because whether you know it or not, there are thousands of Pete Smiths out there that the food bank is feeding every single day. And so I'm so grateful that folks like the library system, where we went, my mom would go to work and we would go to the library and just hang out all day, because that was like the babysitter, to be honest with you, while she went to work. On the days that school was out, or if there were other issues that impacted her from being able to be home, we literally just hung out either outside, or we went to the library or the police station. Not for bad things at the police station, but I say that because each one of you is sitting in a space in life where you have benefited from some of these services, and so your concerns are heard. And I assure you that my vote will go toward making sure that we fulfill your obligation to do and be the best version of yourself, so that thousands of kids that live in this county can continue to be the best version of themselves. And so thank you.
Thanks, Pete. So, got the list. I'm not going to read through it. My staff always tells me I used to do that and try to comment on everything, and it just got too long, so I won't. But I want to thank you all, because you're here advocating for something that government does, and not everybody's doing that. It's a tough time. It's a tough time to be a public servant. It's a tough time to be in government, because there are those who think that government is the source of all of our problems. I was testifying on a bill in the General Assembly yesterday, and there was somebody who was complaining. He said, "Why are you trying to create new ways of creating revenue for government?" And then he read off the growth in the size of government for all the counties that were there, including Anne Arundel. He was from Western Maryland somewhere, and the increase in the size of our budget. And I responded, and I invited him to a budget town hall. Like, seriously? It's a bad thing that we're actually able to increase the compensation for our public servants. It's a bad thing that we're able to provide funding for some of our nonprofits that are, I mean, come on. That is not, that's not how this math should work. Unfortunately, there are people who think that way. One of the things that has been my mission is to restore some of the faith, trust, and respect for local government. I think most people would rather their tax dollars go to local government than any other kind of government. You know, the higher you go, the less they like it generally. It's further away. I really want to thank the public servants in the room and the people who are supporting public servants and the people who are working in the nonprofit sector, which we're trying to expand with the Nonprofit Center and a lot of the work that's going on in the county. So just thank you. It's really hard work, and you can bet that that we're going to do everything we can to fund everything that was brought up. There's nothing here that was brought up tonight was not, in my view, worthy of funding. We will try as best we can. Thanks.